Hello, I'm Chris Barker, and welcome back to another album review. Some Fridays, I review albums like Led Zeppelin 2. Other days, I review albums like Steely Dan's Katy Lied. Today, we are going to be looking at David Bowie's first ever studio album, 1967's David Bowie. This album is a hot mess, with Bowie at times wanting to be either the Kinks, a cross between the Moody Blues and a children's storyteller, and sometimes he just wants to be an edgelord. This leads to the album having a bit of a crisis of tone as it alternates between what would today be considered adult humor, like on We Are the Hungry Man, and overall childish stuff like on There Is a Happy Land. This album also has a bit of a chauvinism problem. I'll go into this in slightly more detail later, but this album does have some odd views when it comes to women. The production on this album is also pretty basic. I don't think I could find more lackluster instrumentation even if I was reviewing a Tom Jones album. I'm not even sure if this is an album that should really count as rock and roll, since most of it just sounds like sub-poor 60s pop backing. Bowie's vocals on this album are also pretty poor, being quite wooden to the point that they're almost approaching spoken word. As for the songwriting itself, as well as the specifics, I'm going to let my song-by-song breakdown speak for itself. I'm going to be going through each song one by one, and then afterwards I'll rate each song and give my final thoughts on the album as a whole. I only have so much sanity to lose before all hope is lost, so I hope you will stick around throughout the entire video to see that. Now, without further ado, let's go on to the song-by-song breakdown. I do not intend to mince words here. On any other album, Uncle Awful would be an awful song to designate album opener. Here it works better than you would think, solely due to the fact that Uncle Awful is one of the more decent-ish songs on the album. Uncle Awful sets this album's style of humorous vignette songs, a style that is clearly heavily influenced by the Kinks, especially their 1966 album Face to Face. Uncle Awful is about a sheltered man-child who finally leaves his mother at the age of 32 because he becomes interested in a girl but then leaves her after learning she cannot cook. Aside from its story being a non-sequitur and the somewhat problematic implications, it is mildly amusing, I guess. Pink Floyd haters will sure to get a kick out of it, but otherwise it feels like it lacks much of a payoff. Sell Me a Coat is a bit of an enigma. The lyrics are a pretty standard bad weather to breakup metaphor, but that theme has been given us plenty of great songs both before and after. The chorus is very weak, but the voices are actually pretty great. The voices here are sure of a burgeoning songwriting talent, which is sadly pretty scarce throughout the rest of the album. Said voice also features what sounds like the most honest singing of the album, as opposed to the wooden stiffness of the rest of the album. If these voices had just been matched up to a better chorus, this might have been Bowie's first classic, but as it is, they will have to wait a few years. The production is sadly pretty standard throughout this album. You have some basic 60s pop ones, maybe a little bit of organ here or there. It's never annoying, and it's decently pleasing sound as far as music goes, but it's pretty far from the stuff of blockbuster albums. Rubber Bands is a song about a guy who fell in love with a girl with a backdrop of a local band's music. Eventually the guy goes off to fight the First World War. When he returns, the band is still there, but his girlfriend has left him for the leader of the band. The whole song once again has sub-pop production, although it does have somewhat of an excuse this time due to the song being set in the late 1910s. The song is sung in a very stiff and wooden manner, which is probably supposed to make it sound silly, but at the same time makes the whole affair disgustingly bland, much like the British somehow managed to transmute beans and toast into audio form. Love You Till Tuesday is probably the best song on this album, albeit still not a song that can really hold a candle to Bowie at his peak. The production is probably the best on the album, which is not saying much, but it does fit, I guess. This is basically another joke song about a guy who's proclaiming that he really loves this girl he met on Sunday, but then says he will love her until Tuesday, although at the end he adds a bit where he says he might stretch it to Wednesday. It's awfully chauvinistic, but it does manage to be mildly charming, and does make for a somewhat nice guilty pleasure song. There Is a Happy Land is a song about a land where children all live and the kids tell the adults to go away or something. I don't know. Rumor has it, if you look up "trite" in the dictionary, you find the lyrics to this song. And if you look up the word grading, the weird vocalizations that Bowie does at the end is downloaded into your brain as an MP3 file. We Are Hungry Men is something else. Listening to this album feels like a slow descent, and this is just uncovering a new level of hell. The song has some sort of shtick of the narrator being sort of a cartoonish fascist who wants to solve overpopulation with various things, including ultimately cannibalism. There seems to be a lot of false equivalencies in the lyrics, something which I would argue makes the song more problematic than the goofy Nazi voices in cannibalism. The song overall has a very strange vibe to it. It also has one of the album's better choruses, although that is almost meaningless in a context like this. If I was wanting to seem like a big-brained individual, I would try to claim the song foreshadowed Station to Station or something like that, but let's face it, this song is a fluke, and quite frankly, it deserves to be remembered as nothing more than a novelty, not even a real song. When I Live My Dream is a pleasant enough song. In it, Bowie is daydreaming about kinds of stuff and tells the girl that she can do whatever now as long as she comes back to him when he can live his dream before. It's a very passive song, but it does, I guess, explore a facet of the human condition, which honestly makes it pretty decent lyrically, I guess. It's only a strange song to follow the previous one. Now, before we go on to side 2 of the album, I want to remind you, if you like this style of album review, to please like this video, comment below, subscribe to my channel, and be sure to hit that bell button, as all these things help me out a great deal. Little Bombardier is a song about a soldier who comes back from war unprepared to live any other sort of life. The little Bombardier eventually befriends some children, but owns his suspicions of adults who tell him to stay away from their children. This is probably the most serious song of the album, and it feels very out of place. The first verse of this song is actually great and could have been the opening to a great song, but alas, it was not meant to be. Aside from being sonically lackluster, what ultimately sinks this song is the message. The song seems to villainize the other adults that tell little Bombardier to stay away from their children. While I'm not without sympathy for little Bombardier, this is frankly a terrible way to look at things. It's one that's completely lacking in common sense, especially by modern standards. Silly Boy Blue is one of the better produced songs of the album, at least in terms of the instrumentation, but overall, not much more can be said for it. The song is about a boy studying in a religious school, but failing. It's just a song with the 60s fascination of mysticism in it, albeit this time it seems to be Tibetan Buddhism instead of Hinduism like most were doing at this time. The problem with it is, after this, I don't really have anything to say about it. In fact, I can't even remember which song I'm reviewing right now. Huh? Where was that? Coming by My Toys is a song from the point of view of a man trying to sell his toys to the children in town. There's also a verse about a child learning the tools of trade from his family, but still having time to play with toys at the end. At least until he grows up. The song is surprisingly honest and feels like something straight out of a Rankin Bass film. Join the Gang is our obligatory 60s Sator song. Why is Sator here? It makes for a funny line of opening, but disappears like 10 seconds into the song. There was also some bizarre sound effects, like buzzing and eating chips later on in the song, which is honestly just one of many bizarre decisions that has been taken to annoy the listener on this album. The lyrics have to do with friend groups and counterculture or something, I guess. Feels a bit undercooked, might have given me salmonella. She's Got Medals is a song about a girl who joined the army and became a war hero and legend before her whole group got wiped out by a bomb. However, there was a semi-humorous reveal that the girl snuck off and deserted before the bomb hit, thus faking her death and living her life as a quote-unquote normal woman who wears dresses and other such BS. The opening of the song makes it sound like it's going to be a Mulan-type statement on gender roles, but then it backtracks into what is awfully conservative territory, especially for someone like David Bowie. Overall, this song is left with a confused message and no real payoff, and the musical aspect isn't very good either. Maids of Bond Street follows up that last note with an even stranger approach. Damn if this album doesn't take a very strange and oftentimes problematic view towards women. Maids of Bond Street would continue to be more of the same, but listening to these lyrics, I'm actually not so sure. I think this song may be what Bowie was going for with some sort of Elvis Costello-esque commentary on how female models and actresses are objectified, but it is hard to tell considering the overall tone of the song as well as the rest of the album's generally chauvinistic tone. Is it straight or is it parody? Mantle's blowing in the wind. And last but not least, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your own peril. I present to you the single greatest waste of groove space in the history of vinyl. Please Mr. Gravedigger is a song where Bowie sings with no accompaniment except ambient rain effects and both sounds. He is supposed to be like a gravedigger singing a little ditty while doing his miserable job. This sort of thing is best left to movies or video games, not a record album. Throughout the song, Bowie sounds severely congested, and stops to sneeze several times. The album literally ends with him blowing his nose. Come on. This song has got to be the worst thing anyone's or future major musician has ever put out. Okay? Steely Dan's Food Back to the Little Ones might have given me food poisoning, but Please Mr. Gravedigger is literally contagious. How did this guy even have a career again after ending his album like this? Why did nobody, record executive, engineer, producer, Bowie himself or whatever, prevent this from being released? The implication that Gravedigger was creating his own work by his own actions is mildly interesting, I suppose, but it's lost throughout the awful sound of it all. I mean, Like, there comes a point when I have to say outright, if I was the boss of Decca Records in 1967, I would have just run this guy out. Even today, knowing how Bowie's story ends, like, when I listen to this song, I can only scarcely envisage that this is the same man who'd go on to give us stuff like Ziggy Stardust, Heroes of Black Store. I mean, come on. Alright, for my final song rankings, I give Uncle Awful 5 out of 10. Sell Me a Coat 6 out of 10. Rubber Band 5 out of 10. Love You Till Tuesday 6 out of 10. There's a Happy Land 4 out of 10. Real Hungry Men 3 out of 10. When I Live My Dream 6 out of 10. Little Bombardier 4 out of 10. Silly Boy Blue 4 out of 10. Come Buy My Toys 5 out of 10. Join the Gang 4 out of 10. She's Got Medals 3 out of 10. Maids of Bond Street 3 out of 10. Please Mr. Gravedigger, an absolute insult of a song, if it can even really be called that. 1 out of 10. That's the lowest I can give because I don't do zeros on my scale. Yeah, this album's honestly pretty bad. There are a few flashes of mild inspiration to be sure, but not enough to even really give us one great song to carry the album. It also doesn't help that the song ends on what is currently the worst song I've ever heard. I honestly don't know how Bowie got signed to another label after the nose-blowing incident. To give this album a 3 out of 10 would be the worst rating I've given so far, but even that seems charitable for an album that leaves with its final impression being the single blowing his nose. Despite this, Sell Me a Coat, Love Me Till Tuesday, and When I Live My Dream are all decent-ish songs, and may well shine more if presented in better company than this rabble. So yeah, I'm looking at semi-objectively, I'm going to give this album a 2 out of 10. Yeah, you heard me, 2 out of 10, not 3 out of 10. Alright, now before then I want to look at the album packaging, because I always do this. This is a 2010 re-release that has it in both stereo and mono as a 2 LP set, so kind of an oddball version. Very nice collection piece. It's got this sticker down here that kind of says what it is. Kind of don't like how that's actually stuck to the sleeve and not to the, plastic wrapper, but hey, I did buy this sealed, so whatever. Very nice photo of Bowie on the front, I guess, although he looks awfully young here. Has kind of mod hair, Kind of nice 60s font though, too. It's only a throwback. There's the back. Kind of lists some stuff about Bowie. For some reason it stops to list that he can play the saxophone, despite the fact that I don't think there's any saxophone on this album whatsoever. Just another baffling choice made with this album. So, even better photo of him than on the front, actually. Got the same nice 60s font. I kind of like the aesthetic on this as well. The kind of worn, tan, kind of, I don't know, whatever. I mean, got that on the spine, too. And of course, this is a double album, as I said. It's in a gatefold sleeve. There you've got a picture of, like, what the record originally looked like. And then you have kind of a track listing and some other information. Not too exciting. Of course, you also have the liners. For the mono liner, you have this kind of sheet that's like an internal memo about Bowie. And then you have this picture of Bowie. It's like about the memo as well. And then for the stereo record, you actually have something a little bit neat, kind of. It imitates the original stereo sleeve, so it's kind of nice. On the back, so you have the back of the sleeve, so it actually imitates a different version of this album's packaging. So that is actually kind of cool, I think. And of course, you have it on this Dram label. I don't have too many on that particular variant of the Dram label, but kind of nice. I do kind of appreciate the extra steps they took with this release to make it look different, to have the, gatefold, to have this one liner kind of imitate the stereo packaging, as well as the other kind of additional liner notes and whatever. But yeah, I mean, overall, the front cover's pretty plain, especially if we weren't looking at it as this is a thick version, but just the original. Back cover's a bit better. I gotta say, I do prefer this to the front cover. Pretty nice picture of Bowie. So yeah, once again, if you like this video, I would urge you to like and subscribe. It's only make me listening to this a little bit more worthwhile. I do have lots of other album reviews coming up, including, of course, Bowie's other albums, as well as plenty of other people I've reviewed. So, yeah, thank you all for watching if you made it this far. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.